Pensioner Philippine Bible Ministry. More on prayer. It says, "You have not because you pray for the wrong things." How often do we pray for the wrong things? D.L. Moody tells a story of a friend of his who has a son, a 3-year-old son, and he watches his father shaving one day. You know, in the old days, they used to use a straight razor, not the kind of razors we have, but a straight razor. You know, very dangerous, very sharp. So as his son's watching him shave, and he says, "Daddy, can I use that? I want to go whittle with it." His father says, "No," and the little boy goes off crying because his daddy won't let him play with the razor, right? And so the point of this is we often want things and we often ask for things that are not good for us, right? We often do that, right? And so the idea was John Bunyan or John Bunyan, the guy who wrote John Bunyan. Hang on. Pilgrim's Progress, right? And other great works that the guy wrote. The only reason he was able to write the Pilgrim's Progress, which has touched millions of lives, it's one of the greatest sellers of all times of Christian literature. It's about a man's progress in the Lord. That's basically what it's about, and then all these things that come up against him, and the helps and everything, and how he winds up going to the kingdom. He never would have wrote that book if he hadn't been in prison. So he wrote this down that he thanked God for the prison. And his whole life in the prison was an amazing situation because the only reason he was in the prison because in those days they didn't let you preach unless you had a license, and he wasn't part of the church, so they arrested him a couple times. And then he said, "Are you going to quit it?" No, he says, "No, I'm not going to quit sharing gospel of God." So they put him in prison. Eventually, he even got to go home and visit. He fathered his children. But he was in prison. But they let him out here and there. The jailer apparently he was close to the jailer. The jailer became a Christian. Um, it's kind of like Paul in prison, where everybody around him is having a, you know, living a good life. Eventually, they let him out when he was older. Um, but he thanked God for that, right? Because we never pray for the things we need. Like he needed prison. We never pray for the hardships and the things that make us into that God can use us, right? He says, but the problem is, here we go. This is the crux. This is the answer right here. Way too often we're praying for razors instead of His will be done. So that's another short video. God bless you guys. That's all for now.